Welcome to the Endurance Horse Podcast, where endurance riders from all across the globe gather, sharing their stories, goals, and progress as they train for and compete in endurance events at every level. So kick off your shoes, pull up a chair, and listen as we gather around the virtual campfire and listen to friends from across the world.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Endurance Horse Podcast. Today on the podcast, we're talking with the ride managers of Trade River Run in Cushing, Wisconsin. Our ride managers are Lindsay, Nichols and Bobbi, Belz. This ride is approved by AERC, UMACRA, Mindra, and DRAW. Sit back, enjoy the ride, and get to know our ride managers. Today we're talking with the ride managers of the 2024 Trade River Run held May 18th through 19th at the Trade River Equestrian Campground in Cushing, Wisconsin. Please welcome with me to the podcast ride manager Lindsay Nichols and Bobbi Belz. So this is a great event you two are hosting. It's offering incentives for juniors to sign up. Sounds like it's very intro friendly for novice riders. And you're sanctioned by AERC, UMACRA, Mindra, and DRAW. Did I miss anybody?
Nope, I think that's everybody.
That's everybody. Did you guys have a mid-pack award this year too?
So yeah, that's one of the things that we try and do. I mean, this is obviously only our second year, but it's kind of, we've been to a lot of rides between the two of us and look at, how do you get riders? How do you make people feel included regardless of what their ride objectives are? So yes, we did. We had an award for the youngest rider. We had an award for the rider who had the most years. We have to say that very delicately so we don't upset anybody. We had the furthest away, and I think we did actually have something for, I don't know if we did mid-pack specifically, but we did try and, weave in awards for all different types of riders.
So what is the history of your ride? You mentioned it's your second year. Is it the second year for the ride, or is it the second year of managing it? Are you two the ones who started this event?
No, I kind of went online yesterday to look at when it actually started because I wasn't sure. And I believe the first ride, when it was still called Border Battle Boogie, was in 2015. And I attended that ride. And then in 2022, the name was changed to Trade River Run. And then we took it over in 2023.
Awesome.
Right. And so I think, people are probably familiar with these names. So we had taken it over from Deb Moe and her crew. Mm-hmm. And then Deb Moe had taken it over from Susie Warren and Lynn Reichardt. And then I don't know if somebody had it before that group. I know they did it for a number of years.
So how did you decide to become ride managers? Did somebody rope you into it, or did you think this is something you always wanted to do?
Lindsay roped me into it.
She had only told me she was going to say that beforehand.
True.
I think, if you, as you ride, right, year after year, you start to realize that at some point you should probably start to think about how you give back to the sport. And so, I knew that Deb was kind of winding down. She was looking for somebody to hand it off to. I mean, it's a lot of work. You know that. So I'd said, yeah, I maybe would. And then I think I probably reneged on it a couple of times. And then finally I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I said to Bobbi, if you want to continue being my friend, you're going to have to do this with me. And then we roped in Lori, too.
When I first started, I was only doing 1 or 2 rides a year and working and all that. And you kind of take advantage and you just ride and enjoy it and feel like you don't have time to do anything else. And then you get older and life slows down a little. And so it just seemed like kind of a natural time to step in and do something. So I agreed.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any advice for others seeking to be a ride manager? And I say this because there are some ride managers out there that they just keep going, but then sometimes there is a little bit of a shelf life just because we all have other things to do. So I love what you've pointed out here, that we could be talking to some listeners now who never considered ride managing because they wouldn't even know how to get into it. Maybe they don't realize there's a need for fresh blood. So if there is somebody listening, what would your advice be if they thought, maybe I would try to volunteer or be a co-ride manager?
I would say find people that know how to do what you don't. Like there are lots of things that we, or especially me, had really no clue as to what to do or how to do it, like tallying points and doing the scorecards and stuff like that at the end. And we have a volunteer, Sarah Kaiser, who does that for many rides, and she loves doing it, and she's good at it. She can either show you how, or she's more than willing sometimes to come out and just take that part over. So I would say just find people to help you in the right areas and do what you're good at.
Right. And, I think if anyone were to approach the existing ride managers and say, could I help with a view to maybe taking over this ride? I think every ride manager would say, okay, so, with regard to approaching sponsors, I take this approach, which is I'm not trying to take advantage. We're not trying to take advantage. We're trying to make this a win-win. Do we have eyeballs? Do we have people who are their community, their potential customers? And the answer is yes. What are their opportunities to get potentially 100 to 120 of their demographic together in one place? We offer that. So I'm not, I don't feel embarrassed or shy or that I'm taking advantage in any way when I reach out to companies and say, if you would donate prizes, if you would, sponsor us in some shape or form, we will promote the heck out of you. We want your name out there. You provide wonderful products. That's how we're aware of you in the first place. And the response that I usually get is quite favorable. I mean, there's obviously some that either don't reply, some who say, we've been hit by a lot of requests and we can't do it at this time, but contact us next year. But generally speaking, most organizations respond and say, this is what we can do. And I again, say that. I'm not asking for this specifically or that specifically. Anything you can provide would be greatly appreciated. I think one of the things that we're most proud of is that we got US Rider to donate and sponsor last year, and they gave 2 memberships. That was a huge deal, and we're using that money to basically sponsor the juniors on the Sunday. And why are we doing that? We're trying to look for ways to attract people into the sport. We're also trying to divert some of the traffic from Saturday because it can get so congested, and try and get people riding on the Sunday. So it's all those moving parts, trying to get the sponsorship, attract the people, and then try get them to ride and do different things. This year we have a gated horse trainer who's going to come out, and she's actually going to ride the novice ride on the Sunday. And again, why are we doing that? We're trying to attract more gated riders, people who would like to try it. It's the novelty piece. She's going to talk about, the horses that she breeds and why she thinks they're good for this discipline, and also for, people who maybe don't want to ride trotting horses all of their life as they start to get older, that this is another alternative. It's, again, looking for ways to create win-win situations with the community and with other businesses.
Now, maybe this has been covered because obviously I haven't read every endurance news, but I wonder, has the idea of sponsors been covered? Because when I held a ride and I wanted to do sponsorships, there were some people with pushback who said, well, we're not a 501c3, we can't get sponsorships. And I'm like, well, you for sure can, get sponsorships. And I wonder if that wouldn't be a great topic for a convention at, either UMACRA or AERC, or if you have a lot of experience in this, writing an article about it, because I don't see sponsors at a lot of rides. It seems to be very split. What is your thoughts on that?
Bobbi, what your observations?
I guess I don't know really the technicality difference between a sponsor or a donor. Somebody that is donating something as a prize that you might use for a first place or a best condition prize or something like that. But maybe that's more of a donor. So, because I don't know what the why somebody would think that they couldn't be a sponsor. Are you thinking of sponsors in a different way?
I don't know. I've donated things to, which unfortunately that ride was canceled, but I donated a mid-pack award, which was like a ribbon hanger, just with their ride name on it. But unfortunately, I put the year on it, and I never put the year on things, and I did that time, and I was like, So I just told the ride manager, I said, you keep it and put your stuff on it. You did all the work to create the ride. You keep the prize. So she did. But I think because I've only managed one ride, I think it went really well. We did have so much support, and like you said, having somebody who knows how to crunch the numbers at the end, that was the piece for me that I didn't know how to do, and I kind of wish somebody would make a YouTube tutorial or something about it so that more people would feel brave enough to ride manage. But I don't know. I just thought getting sponsorships or items donated. I wish it was more common because it makes things more interesting, and especially.
I guess I never thought of it as not being common. I mean, just having gone to so many rides, either in the upper Midwest and also out west, it seems that you see those names. You see the Distance Depot. You see the Hey Chicks. You see the Riders Warehouse. You see all of these. Kind of, I guess, what you would call usual suspects. We love them, right? I mean, that's what makes all of this happen. So, that I kind of just took those as the foundation and contact them each year and then say, okay, but why just them? Why not more? Because there must be more organizations out there that would like to piggyback on these events to get their name and their products well known. And then what about outside of, this? So I live in St. Croix Falls, which is exactly where this ride is held. And so I contact local businesses because I just think, do people understand all that St. Croix Falls has to offer outside of the fact that we've got this wonderful state forest? I mean, we've got this recreational, mecca. I mean, and there's vineyards and wineries and all kinds of things. So, I get the local bakery to sponsor it. We've got Chateau St. Croix, and they're actually even going to provide camping if anybody wants to come up early and wants to, camp in the grounds of their winery.
Wow.
So it's also looking and saying, we're bringing traffic to the area. What can we do for our local businesses too? So again, I just always think win-win. How does this be a win-win? Why not just what can we do for the riders, but what can we do for the businesses? What can we do for the community? How can everybody, gain something from it? Because we're putting a lot of effort into it, Bobbi knows. I mean, we start planning this months in advance, and by the time that Wednesday or Thursday or the weekend before rolls around, I mean, then it's really kind of, manic. And then when we leave on the Sunday afternoon. Are we even safe to drive our trailers home? It's exhausting, but it's worthwhile. But it is. It's very, very time consuming.
And I'm looking at your ride flyer, and I see you have Copper Ridge on there as a sponsor. And is it Our Ranch Horse Training? Is that what you were talking about?
So we have R Squared Ranch, and she has the Rocky Mountain horses. And then we were hoping that we would have Copper Ridge, but they're not sure with the foaling season if they're going to be able to do it. So I said, why don't you let's see how this goes this year, and then maybe have you sponsor it next year. Again, my hope is that we can attract some more gated riders maybe to do this novice, and then if they like it, then maybe they're going to move up to more sponsor an LD next year. Who knows? So
for sure.
It's all just trial and error, because we have vets there on Sunday, we have volunteers there on Sunday, we have our ride managers there on Sunday. So why not try and get as many riders as we can? It's hard when it's 3 comp riders and 4 LD riders.
Yeah.
To say,
so
we're all here.
So it's not just something that fizzles out by noon on Sunday and really is no big deal.
Bingo, exactly. Yeah.
So now that you've talked about all the things that you guys have had to go through, would you encourage other riders to step up and be a ride manager or assist?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yep. It's not as hard as it seems. There's just a lot of detail to it, but but it's not, anybody that's done any amount of endurance riding can learn how to manage a ride. And it really, really helps when the previous ride manager, they spent a lot of time with us. We met several different times with Deb Moe, and she really got us going. It would have been a lot more difficult without the help from the previous ride manager.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I mean, I used to mark trail with Susie Warren, so I knew exactly what she like. How do you look at it? How do you look at a trail, with scrutiny and say, where should it be marked? How far in advance? Confidence? How far after? And I was like, okay, I got it. This is how you mark a well-marked trail, because that's kind of my own personal pet peeve. I hate that feeling like, oh my gosh, did I take the wrong turn? And how far do I have to go back? You want people to enjoy it. I know it's endurance, not supposed to be easy, but let them know where they're going, right? Let's do a good job of trail marking.
Well, and everybody marks trails differently too, and I think that's one thing that we're hoping to be able to do better this year. So last year when Lindsay marked some of the trails and I marked some of the trails, and I had it in my head that the only time you really need to put a ribbon up is, a couple in between, but then just before a turn. And that probably got to be a little bit confusing, because then you would be on a trail that Lindsay marked and there was a ribbon every 15 feet.
So, that's how I mark, Lindsay. That's how I mark.
Right. But admittedly, we're on the main trail, the main designated trail. So there aren't many opportunities to get off the main trail. So, Bobbi's actually right. But how do you wean people off that expectation? And so it's a gradual thing. But at least we can be consistent. So
we did have to have somebody fix the trail.
Yeah.
And it was, that I marked at the very beginning.
Did we really? Did I not know about that?
No, you knew. She took my horse, Zeus, and went out and put up extra ribbons at a confusing spot. But that won't happen this year.
Yeah. No. Well, I'm all for over marking. And my favorite rides, I think, are two where there's something that says don't go there. Like on our trail, we painted, which we got permission from the DNR, but we painted an orange X, like do not go this way. But I love Iron Oak. I think they always have signs that are like don't go this way, and that does help. But I think confidence ribbons help, because I was at a ride at the Northern Kettle, and had I not ran into, I think, Sheriani once, and she, we go this way. And I'm like, okay, because I didn't know. It wasn't clear to me. And then another time I ran into Ruth Casserly, and I was like, thank God, because I wasn't sure which way to go. So I don't think you can overmark. That's just me. No. And that terrible feeling when you're lost and you're like, oh God.
It's a terrible feeling. And if anybody can get lost, I can. So
I'm there right there with you. And I think at the North Kettle, it was just like people thought, oh, yeah, take this route this day. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't hardly ever go up there. I don't, I need those markers.
Right. Right. And I think sometimes, that's the mistake that people make too, is they think everybody's ridden here. Well, you can't assume that. You have to assume that everybody has never ridden there, right? You have to mark it like this person got here for the first time today and is doing these trails for the first time.
And you hope that there are a lot of those people.
Right. Yeah. You do.
Yeah. That's when it's fun, is when you get people that never usually ride there and they come in and they end up loving it.
Right. I remember one time riding southeast, and it was probably my third ride, something like that. And I got to an intersection. I had my son with me, who at the time was about 6 or 7. And we're at this intersection. There's no sign. And so I guessed, and off we went. And, and that happened a few times. And then when we got back, people said, you got to follow the hoof marks. You got to, right? I'm like, oh, okay now, lesson learned. If in doubt, look at the ground. Which way do the hooves go?
We could just turn this into a whole bunch of how I got lost stories, because even at the Southern Kettle one time, I came to an intersection. It wasn't a place I usually ride, and there were a ton of ribbons to the right, and there were hoof prints. And I knew, like, Wes and John were ahead of me, so I thought, okay, so they went that way. Oh, I got so lost. It ended up down by the shooting range. It was terrible. So then I had to trace my steps back and then go. And then I tried to warn people, like, look, like these were for construction. That wasn't part of the trail. That's what happened, was they were doing some kind of construction to the right. So it did look like, and your eye catches that, right? Yeah. Like my eye caught pink ribbons. And behind a tree branch, there was a sign that said no horses in this area, but that didn't catch my eye. What caught my eye was, like you said, looking for hoof prints and then ribbons. Oh, go this way. No.
Yeah. No. Well, I love your idea of the big X that says don't go there. So we'll have to remember that. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Just some orange spray paint. And so back to your ride. What makes the Trade River ride unique compared to other rides?
Lindsay, you want to grab that one?
I can. I mean, again, I'm biased because I live here and it's where I train, but I think Trade River is, it's got so many attributes. It's beautiful footing, so it's very barefoot friendly. It's got, I always say, something for everybody. You like the windy single track? Yep, got that. You like the double wide, going through the forest glades? Got that. You want to do some easy climbs and look out on the St. Croix River Valley? Yep, there you go. So it's a beautiful park. It's got lots of overlooks. It's extensive. I mean, what did you say, Bobbi? 40 miles? I would say it's probably more than that. So
40 miles of trails, yeah. But they're all different.
Right. And there's so you don't have to keep doing the loop, and I understand that that's sometimes the limitation or the frustration or the challenge with other places is how do we make it interesting when everybody is having to do the same loop, right? We can reverse it. We can, we don't have to, we're lucky we don't have to do that. It's all, independent. There's not a lot of redundancy. I think the only part of the trail that we really have people repeat is the last 3 miles to camp, and that's just because it's everybody's favorite. They love to, travel along and look down at the river. And it's just, it's gorgeous and windy, and so we always finish each loop. But other than that, everything is an independent, fresh loop for everybody.
The Riverview Trail is very windy, and it's narrow, and it's through the woods and up and down, and it's just so much fun to go trotting or cantering through there, and then you end up at a beautiful overlook. And I mean, I live an hour and 15 minutes from there. I would drive there just to do that.
Looking here at your flyer, and I just wanted to go over some of the things people might need to know as far as camping, getting a ride pass.
There are, let's see here, there are 40 sites in the campground. 20 of them are electric. They're almost all, I believe they might even be all booked up, but that's not a problem because we also have an overflow lot for an additional 12 or so rigs. And then we've got unlimited space that we're able to use across the street. So we will fit you in. If you don't have a campsite, probably just email us or call us and let us know ahead of time you're coming so we have some idea of how many extras we're finding space for. Don't you think, Lindsay?
Absolutely. We talked about what Governor Knowles has to offer and all this wonderful riding. Probably the biggest challenge of this ride is the camping, is that there's some very strict rules about not sharing of spaces unless it's a non-living quarters with a living quarters. And so we have to, duck and weave and we every year ask them if they could stretch the rule and then get told every year absolutely not. So if that was one thing we could change, it would be just to have be able to pack more people into the main camp since it is so big. But as Bobbi said, we have the overflow across the street. If we need it, we have another overflow area that we can use that's on private land. Now we have Chateau St. Croix that have offered us kind of a staging area that's probably about 10 minutes from the ride. So we have lots of options. And as anybody who's been doing this for a few years realizes, when the campsite's full, it doesn't actually mean anything because it's musical chairs in that last week. You've got people who have a campsite who now want to upgrade the campsite. You've got people who've got a campsite who now want to get next to the best friends. You've got people who they want to go from non-electric to electric, or they've changed the plans entirely and they're not coming to the ride. So it's dizzying watching as it all moves around, and we at that point can't really keep track other than when we see something, we will nudge people in the right direction if we know that they're looking and they're waiting,
Mm-hmm. So what kind of campsites do they have? Corrals? Do they have high ties? Is there water? And are there what kind of facilities are there?
There's a high tie at each site, and then you're also free to put up portable corrals around those high ties. There's water at several spots throughout the campground, outhouses, and then a big central area where we usually have the vets and the food truck and stuff like that.
Right. So people don't have to travel very far to find a spigot, to fill up buckets and fill up the water. There's, we always have a big tank that's in the main campground. It's very circular in nature, so it doesn't, no matter where you are camping or parking, you can still get access. The overflow area, we'll put a tank out there, so nobody's having to go very far to get water.
To a day use area on the river.
I was just going to say, so you have a food truck instead of a potluck. Do they need to bring cash for that? And do you know what hours that'll be available so they can plan?
Yeah, we've offered the food truck the option of coming on Friday and then staying all the way through Sunday. Depending on how busy they get and what their other commitments are. But as a minimum, they're going to be there Friday as everybody is arriving. They'll be there for Saturday lunch. They will be there for Saturday, the evening meal, and possibly into Sunday. But as a minimum, it will be Friday and Saturday, and that's 3 Chiefs fry bread. So they're doing everything like Indian tacos. We've got breakfast sandwiches, hot sandwiches, that type of thing. We'll have a menu up once they have that finalized. But they'll probably be in the same spot as the food truck last year for anybody who was at the ride, which will be one of the, kind of the campsites that we have as part of ride management. And we'll have signs out front. I think they will take credit cards, but cash is always king. Right?
Yeah, just in case, yeah. So when we had the food truck at the Warhorse Endurance Ride, it was really popular, too, because people could smell it cooking. They could just go eat when they wanted to. They didn't have to wait. So I think that's a great thing. And then, like you said, supporting your local businesses and promoting them, that's a great way to do that. So I see you have your award ceremony set for Saturday at 7. And do you have your riders meeting on Friday? What time?
Yeah, we'll have the riders meeting. And I think, what did we have it last year, Bobbi? I think we usually do it about 6:30, something like that.
On Friday evenings? Probably another ride meeting after the awards for Sunday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So I saw this, I'm sure you both saw this come up as a question on UMECRA on Facebook recently. And so I think maybe we'll just try to address this here. And that is, people find these rides advertised, but they've never been to one. And they think of it kind of like a horse show. And they're confused by it. There was a man who's like, hey, I want to go to this ride. And what I think, as we have, been in the sport a while, it's just common knowledge to us. But if you think of it as somebody coming in brand new, so if you were talking to this man, what would you say? I tried to give a little bit of advice on there and just say, you want to come the day before. You need to get vetted in. You have to have your paperwork. I think for somebody brand new to the sport, it's a little confusing. So what would you say to this brand new person? They want to come to a ride the first time. What to expect? It
is confusing. And I remember being really confused. But I would say definitely just have your coggins, come the night before, and people there will almost always just help you, walk you through it. But also, I just had a gal email me and ask me a bunch of questions. So I sent her an email back with the gist of everything, but I also referred her to the UMECRA website, New Rider Handbook, that also goes into great detail outlining everything that's going to happen and the order that things go in. And I found that really helpful before my first ride, just to kind of, I actually printed it out. I still have it, but
and I think reaching out, like as Bobbi said, they reach out to the ride manager and we can walk them through the process. a worry that somebody just shows up, because you said it, Christina, it would be confusing. Okay, yeah, I mean, most people realize to go to any kind of competitive horse event, you have to have Coggins, but, I guess, how do they know what distance they want to do? How do they know, they just kind of need to know some of the ropes, right? It's just helpful to know the ropes. When you vet in, why are you vetting in? Not taking the horse away. I mean, now the horse needs to be in camp, so should you bet in the morning? It depends how far away you are. It's, all of that good stuff. So I think that's a conversation. And then, I don't know how good we are. I'd like to think we're good at this, and I know that we really want to do it well at the ride, but anyone who is new, anyone who is confused, anyone who is struggling, smile. How can we help you? Come with us. Let me find you someone who can spend some time with you. We've got to do, I just feel like we can always do a better job of welcoming people into the sport. We try and walk around, particularly on the Sunday when we had so many novice riders. How are you doing? Is this your first ride? Did you have a good ride? Let's make sure that people know that, one, they're welcome. Two, there's always people that they can ask. There's always people who will either mentor them or just give them some, advice in passing, who they can, circle back with, give out numbers so that they can follow up with questions, all of that good stuff,
And to know that, if they can make it to a ride and we can just get them pointed in the right direction, or, tell them the difference between a novice and an intro and which one is more appealing. Once they do their first novice or intro, they'll realize that, it's just a whole lot of fun. We all are not that fit, we do the best we can. You just ride your own ride. You might not be really fast, but who cares? It's just really fun.
Right, exactly. And you said it. I mean, we don't know what we don't know. I mean, I remember doing my first novice ride. I was like, can my horse even do this? And when I think back on it now, it makes me smile. Yes, they can do 10 miles or 11 miles. They may be tired just like we are. I mean, Bobbi, what did you say when you did your first ride? You would lay on the ground.
When I finished my first LD, I got back. I handed my horse my husband. I was so sore. I laid down on the mat in front of my trailer, and I looked around at all these people, and I thought, how can you be so unfit? Because these other people were just hopping off their horses after doing 50 miles, and they looked awesome. But, there's a little bit of muscle memory involved, and eventually I got it.
Right, but I think people are intimidated because, again, how do you know? You don't know until you try, and then once you try, you realize how attainable it is. You may not win it, right, if it's a novice ride, but you will have a really good idea of where your horse is and what you want to do next.
I was more concerned about myself
than the horse.
I did. You see how quickly she handed that horse off?
Take my horse.
She's not even sure it was her husband.
Well, ladies, it's been fun talking to you. And is there anything else that you would like to add about your ride?
I think the only thing I would add, and sorry, Bobbi, to butt in, is if anyone is listening and is coming to this ride, we've talked a lot about sponsors, and it's something that we do. Right now it's probably one of the biggest time-consuming pieces of the lead up to the ride. Trail marking is probably the next big thing once we get closer to it, but finding sponsors, finding repeat sponsors is a huge deal. And so, we are trying to promote them, but we would like the riders to also understand, you get a Hey Chick slow feeder net, post about it, send photos, tag the ride, do your part of encouraging sponsors to want to continue to sponsor the ride. Whatever it is, you get a gift certificate from Chick Saddlery. Again, what did you spend that on? Post a picture, talk about it. That's what we would like as our riders, to really appreciate the sponsors and the products that they got. We had a really generous donation from Equus Magnificus, which is a local St. Croix Falls company. They do all of the horse treats, and they do fly sprays and other types of sprays, and they gave amazing amounts, and I didn't see one single person tag anything about them. And I think they will sponsor us again this year, but it's just like, appreciate them, please help us,
Well,
do your
that's
part.
a really, really good idea, because that's something that I would have never, ever thought about, and because I don't use my Facebook that much until I became a ride manager. It would have never occurred to me to post something that I won and say what I used it for.
Right.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable. So you may not say, you may not do like a big product, review, but what you could just say, just a simple photo, your horse, tag the ride, tag the sponsor. Beautiful.
I wonder if you could get, like a young person to do this for you, not to add one more thing to your list to do, but when you give the sponsored item, I wonder if you had like a little thank you card or addressed already or something that you could give with it, and have that person hopefully send it and say, thank you, I went to this ride. And like if you had a little instructions on there.
Oh, that's a great idea.
That
That's
said,
a fantastic idea.
please tag our ride. Please tag your sponsor.
Yes.
Yeah, because you're right. They need to hear back other than, oh, thanks, I got my stuff, bye.
Right. How do they know that Bobbi and I haven't got 1,000 hay nets? Right? How do they?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do they not know that we have a shell hoof pick tool for every foot of our horses? I mean, we did not. I promise you, we did not keep these things. We gave them all to everybody, and the volunteers too. We tried to show the love to the volunteers. It's crazy how much time people like Diane Mertz, Jeanette Sensor, who else was there? Lynn Reichardt and her husband Charlie. My gosh, these people, Jane, and I always butcher her last name, Lesky, a Wisconsin rider. I mean, people just come out of the woodwork to come, how can we help? How can we help? What would you like us to do? And without that group of people who Carmen brings this amazing amount of knowledge that then frees us up as ride managers to go deal with the 3 emergencies that we might have during the course of the ride, or a hiccup with the reporting of results, or whatever it may be. The vet needs this is going on here, there's a horse loose, whatever it may be. We know that we've got all these wonderful volunteers, so we try to treat them with some of the sponsored goods too, just so they've got, they feel appreciated.
I'm sure all your riders really appreciate all you're doing. I mean, just listing all of that off, they have to realize it's a labor of love. And maybe they should send a thank you note to these companies. What if they got 100 thank you notes? Then I guess next year when you go back to say, hey, will you sponsor us? They'll be like, well, yeah, maybe you're the only person they sponsored that they heard back from. And who doesn't like to get a thank you, card?
Right. That's a great idea. Right. I know, and for us too, if we're seeing the tags, right, then we're seeing, okay, we know that these sponsors are being appreciated. It's people are hearing the message. We want people to enjoy the rides. It's again a win-win, right? We want to do it. We want the riders to have a great time. We want the sponsors to feel the love. We want the volunteers to feel appreciated. What else? We want to keep the DNR happy so we can keep going back there.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a fun time. I think I'm already committed to something that weekend, and you guys are about 4 hours from me, but who knows, maybe someday I can get up there. But if there is somebody listening that can maybe add your ride to their calendar, I'm sure you'll get them squeezed in. And I appreciate your time today and chatting with me. Definitely we'll get this out there.
And then one last thing, Christina, does everybody know where Cushing, Wisconsin is? It's right on the border with Minnesota and Wisconsin. So we are 90 minutes northeast of the Twin Cities. We are, I think, what did you say? Like, are you near Madison? We're probably 4.5 hours from Madison. So we're actually in a good location for people. I think we had people from North Dakota last year. So
I'm a little ways away, but yeah, that's why the ride was called Border before, wasn't it? It was the Border Battle.
Border Battle.
Because you're right there, so you can draw riders in from multiple states. That's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Did you tell Bobbi how we started to have the idea to do this was from spammers on your page?
I saw that.
Oh, she saw that. She thought I roped you. Like she thought I was like, oh, we should do something that's going to make Bobbi feel really uncomfortable. More public speaking. I said, I didn't. I promise I didn't. She contacted me about spammers and what, so. Yeah.
It's like pulling weeds. you pull so many weeds and then they come back up. So, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Well, I will be hoping and praying you guys get amazing weather up there and you just have a blast and have a great ride.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Christina.
Thanks. Bye now.
We enjoyed having you along for the ride. Endurance Horse Podcast is where you get to share your adventures of riding good horses through beautiful country. Many stresses in life are washed away by a good gallop, a steady trot, or by simply saddling up your favourite horse for an easy ride. Remember, every mile a memory.